What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement and welcome to the RS Dynasty channel. I'm Ron, and I imagine a lot of you guys are towards the end of your rookie drafts. You're in the third round, the fourth round, or maybe your rookie draft just ended and the waiver wire is rolling through and you want to stash some players on your taxi squad and things are getting messy. You're probably looking at a lot of these names. You're like, who even are these guys? Do I even care about any of them? Well, today I'm going to talk about my 15 must-draft sleepers and taxi squad stashes for your Dynasty rookie drafts to give you some names to look out for when you get to these yucky rounds of your rookie draft. So with all that being said, if you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and maybe we can find this year's Jalen Coker. We did call out Jalen Coker in this video last year. We'll see how this goes. Now, every player we mention on this list is going to be in terms of their rookie draft ADP. This is from Dynasty Data Lab. This is from the April 29th to present day. So about the last week or so of rookie draft ADP, we can talk about the players that I like relative to their pricing. Now, first up, we have Jalen Royals. All of these players will be drafted in the third round or later inside of rookie drafts. He is going at the 308. He's my 305. I am 3 spots higher than consensus. That's nothing crazy, but he is the only third-round rookie pick that we're going to mention in this video, and he is somebody I want to make sure to mention because I do like Jalen Royals. He goes in the 4th round to the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's one of these players that I'm fine paying the Chiefs tax, right? We see this all the time where in years past it's been, of course, Pacheco worked out, but you've paid the Chiefs tax for Justin Ross, Darwin Thompson, Sky Moore, everybody across the board. And I will keep going back for the opportunity to find the next Isaiah Pacheco, the next Damian Williams, the next all of those kinds of guys that have been contributors in this offense. And to me, Jalen Royals is one of them. Now, when we look at how he scores in my model, he is a silver wide receiver prospect. Now, my model, the RS grades goes bronze, silver, gold, elite. Silver's really good for a day 3 wide receiver, right? He gets drafted in the 4th round, but the most important part is that he's one of these late round dart throws that has a good efficiency score, which is just a composite grade of your PFF grade, your yards per out run, and your career passer rating when targeted. And this is the list of your day 3 wide receivers with a 6.75 efficiency score or better. You have D.D. Westbrook, who didn't have a top 24 finish, but he did average over 10 points per game in his first 3 seasons. That's a huge hit for a third-round rookie pick. You also have Puka Nacua, of course, on this list. You have Kiki QT. You have Khalil Shakir, and that's kind of it. It's not like the greatest list in the world, but then you bump over 6.8 yak per reception. That's great. 26.4% missed tackles forced per reception. That's amazing. And then 64% contested catch rate. So when you kind of go under the hood here, Jalen Royals, of course, is a prospect out of Utah State. So smaller school, not like the biggest mega producer in the world, at least early on in his career, but there's some underlying metrics to be a fan of. And again, he goes to an amazing landing spot. Now, something that is interesting, and you don't read into this too much, but there is some parallels to Rashee Rice here, a stud for the Kansas City Chiefs. This is an excerpt from Reception Perception. We had Matt Harmon on the main channel last weekend, and this is from his write-up on Jalen Royals. There's one name that stands out from this list that was a hit in the move-around category of receivers was Rashee Rice. Interestingly enough, Royals received a Rice comparison from J.J. Zacharyson in his prospect guide, and both players are about the same size with tantalizing athletic testing. They both have identical 149, 93rd percentile 10-yard splits. Just like Royals, Rice was a one-side-of-the-field X receiver for SMU, and that's why Matt Harmon's not as high on him. I think that he played like over 80% of his snaps from like the outside, like just lining up kind of like what what's his name? Cliff Kingsbury used to do, I believe, with Larry Fitzgerald, or maybe it was with DeAndre Hopkins, where he would just have all of his routes, like 80% of his routes just being perimeter right side of the field, like no moving him around or playing him in the slot and outside. And that's usually a red flag on these profiles, but Rashee Rice also had that. Now, in the pros with Kansas City, he's played a role that's almost the exact opposite. As a slot-heavy yak threat. Perhaps I'm reaching here, but maybe a team has a similar vision with Royals. And the interesting part is that we got a quote from Chiefs Director of Player Personnel and Scouting, Ryan Nutt. That's a crazy sounding name, but he says we see Jalen Royals as a very similar to Rashee Rice player. With Rashee coming back from injury, the hopes are this kid can get some playing time and help us out. So they're already the team that drafted Rashee Rice sees the same parallels that Matt Harmon does, that JJ Zachariason does. And to me, that's exciting. Rashee Rice coming off of a major knee injury. If we could get Jalen Royals to almost be like a handcuff to that role, to me, that becomes very interesting later on in your rookie drafts. And of course, he tests well, 4.4 speed, 6 foot tall, 205 pounds, comps to guys like Michael Gallup if you want him to play on the perimeter, guys like Rashee Rice if he's more than just an outside perimeter X receiver. For me, as a round 3 flyer, I'm all over that. Now, our next player, our second must-draft sleeper, is Jarquez Hunter. Now, this is where we start getting deeper. He's going at the 403 in rookie drafts right now. He's my 308, so I'm 7 spots higher than consensus, and he goes in the 4th round to the Los Angeles Rams. And I think the most important part with the Rams is we just want pieces of this offense. Ryan Heath had a great tweet the other day just saying, here's every running back and wide receiver to make the playoffs, or the fantasy playoffs, in over 55% of ESPN leagues since 2017. The Sean McVay players are highlighted in yellow. I don't know why I'm struggling to speak, but 10% of fantasy football league winners have come from Sean McVay since he's gotten there, right? We're talking Cooper Kupp, you're talking Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp numerous times, Kyron Williams, Todd Gurley. Even outside of that, we've seen usable weeks from guys like C.J. Anderson and Ronnie Rivers, and there's just been guys where they'll fill in and be really great for fantasy football. We even saw like a stretch with Tyler Higbee where he was great. I want pieces in this offense, and I think they're really coming around after seeing what Liam Cohen did last year, where Les Snead said, we do think the way this NFL season's going, the amount of wear and tear, that having a committee and a committee with different skill sets only helps us continue being able to run the football like we want to run it. Then Sean McVay below that says a little bit more versatility in his 2025 offense and notes how impressed he was by the variety of personnel groupings run in Liam Cohen's 2024 Bucs offense. So I think there's going to be a lot more room in this backfield than there has been in years past, where it's been pretty much just the Kyron Williams show. I think, Kyron Williams is fine. He's a volume sponge. He can kind of do his thing, but he's not an electric runner, and he's never going to bring your offense over the top as like a top 10 rushing efficiency style offense. And I think incorporating guys like Blake Corum and Jarquez Hunter could unlock some of that upside. Jarquez Hunter, of course, 5'9", 204 pounds, 4.4 speed, good, I was going to say explosion, but no, a good speed score. And then in terms of the 30 running backs in my database, he is second in runs of 10 or more yards, second in runs of 15 or more yards, 4th in yards after contact per attempt, and 5th in missed tackles forced per touch. All really good metrics across the board. 4th round draft capital, 21 receptions in his final year. He's somebody, along with Blake Corum, that I'm stashing, where I think, honestly, a really good move would be if on most teams, redraft or dynasty, you stash one of Jarquez Hunter or Blake Corum. Now, after that, our third sleeper is going to be DJ Giddens. Now, he was somebody that everybody liked pre-draft, and he went day 3, and now he's slid down. And I'm not even that much higher than consensus, where ADP's 401, he's my 311, 2 spots higher than consensus, but I want to make it known that he's a priority target for me, right? He goes to the Colts, so not like a sexy landing spot where he's going to be behind Jonathan Taylor. He gets drafted in the 5th round, but I've been messing around with the NFL next-gen stats model, and to me, it's honestly, like, if you're out there and you don't have the time to make a model, or you don't want to, like, pay for my model or something else, it's not the greatest one in the world, but I think that there is some cool things you can do with it, where you can look at their draft score, where they take into account athleticism score, production score, and the output is a draft score. Now, they're not solving for points per game like we are. They're solving for like starter years, making the Pro Bowl, etc. But there's definitely enough crossover there. It's just interesting, especially when you get to day 3 and you start to look for these, metrics where after day 3, it's tough. Like, most models are fine, but they're not going to just like sort by the best players, because what works for the high end guys, right? Like what makes Ashton Genty a legendary prospect isn't necessarily going to uncover the next Bucky Irving, is kind of what I'm trying to say here. Looking at other models like Next Gen Stats, they don't use draft capital, which is really interesting. They don't use draft capital, and you can see who they were high on relative to consensus. This is a list of 39 running backs with a Next Gen Stats draft score of 75 plus that were drafted on day 3. So there's 39 of these running backs. The guys who qualify in this class are all very obvious, right? Scatabo, Dylan Sampson, Tootin, and then really at the bottom, you're talking Damian Martinez and Taj Brooks, but they barely even hit the 75 threshold, so I wouldn't necessarily include them with these high-end guys, 77, 78, and above. DJ Giddens comes in here at a 77, And among this list, you have a lot of really good hits where you have Chase Brown, Elijah Mitchell, Jay Ajayi. Isaac Grendel's not a hit, but he's shown some promise. Chuba Hubbard's in here. Bucky Irving, Aaron Jones, Tyrone Tracy, Jordan Howard. It's a really strong list that DJ Giddens finds himself in the middle of. And DJ Giddens, to me, is a pretty straightforward Jonathan Taylor handcuff in an offense that's pretty good at running the ball, right? Shane Steichen's a decent play caller. So this is a prospect that's 6 foot, 212 pounds, 4.4 speed, finished college with back-to-back seasons of 1,500 yards from scrimmage and 20-plus receptions in each of those seasons. So this is just a profile I want to bet on, even if there's not a clear path to him being a monster in year one. But he's an injury away, and that's really all I'm looking for once we get to the 3rd, 4th, 5th round taxi squad stash part of the draft. Now, somebody I've been talking a lot about recently, and I didn't think I was going to, but Isaac Teslaa. I'm a big fan of Isaac Teslaa. He goes in the 3rd round to Detroit. His ADP is the 407. That is disrespectful. He got drafted on day 2. He got drafted in the 3rd round. Again, when we look at these wide receiver hit rates, right, guys that are going ahead of him are Alec Iomanner and everybody else's, favorite day 3 wide receiver. I know we just had Jalen Royals ahead of him, but I'll pay the Chiefs tax there. But when you just look at the hit rates, right, for round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in terms of 14-plus point per game seasons, 62% of round 1, 28% of round 2, and 26% of round 3 hit 14-plus point per game seasons. That's about an average wide receiver 2 season. You get to round 4, and that goes down to 4.2%. So that's a massive fall off. To have Isaac Teslaa buried so far is, to me, a disrespect to the draft capital that was used on him. Now, I know if you're not crazy about him as a player, sure, but just in terms of being a round 3 player, and in my prospect model, he does grade out as a silver. So he's a part of this cohort that are silver round 3 receivers, and this is a pretty good hit rate, right? You have Nico Collins, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Tank Dell, Michael Gallup, Kenny Golladay. After that, it definitely does fall off, but again, we're talking about round 3 receivers where only a quarter of these guys become relevant at any point in their careers. Why not Isaac Teslaa, man? You can get him super cheap. He's going to the 407. He's my 312, so I am 7 spots higher than consensus there. He's somebody that tested like crazy. You can see from the player profiler screenshot, 4.4 speed, 115.7 speed score in the 97th percentile, 91st percentile burst, 87th percentile agility, really good catch radius, 6'4", 214 pounds. He is genuinely a freak. Now, he didn't produce much at Arkansas. He was outproduced by Andrew Armstrong, who was 24 years old and an NFL wide receiver. But when he played in the D2 level his first 3 seasons, his final year, he was an absolute monster. 68 catches, 1,300 yards, and 13 touchdowns on a passing offense that only had 2,100 passing yards and 18 touchdowns. So he had 1,300 of 2,100 passing yards, and he had 13 touchdowns of 18 passing touchdowns in his final year. And he is this like wing T quarterback in high school, converted guy. So there's still a little bit of a learning curve here where he's learning the position. But when the Lions come out and they draft you 70th overall, I am very interested in that player. Jameson Williams is in the final year of his deal. This front office is usually pretty sharp. So to me, Isaac Teslaa is somebody, I think I've drafted him. I'm in probably like maybe 6 or 7 rookie drafts right now. About half of my leagues have started their rookie drafts, and I've probably gotten Isaac Teslaa in about half of them so far. After that, we have Woody Marks as my 5th sleeper. He goes to Houston. He's drafted in the 4th round. Right now, his ADP is nothing. He's not getting drafted in every single league, but he is my 401. First thing you have to recognize with Woody Marks is that the Houston Texans traded a future 3rd to draft him in the 4th round. I'm not saying that you should consider him a day 2 running back, but they gave up a lot for this guy. They really like Woody Marks. And first and foremost, this is somebody that produced every year he was in school. He had 60 catches as a true freshman, 312 rushing yards. He then had a final peak of 1,133 rushing yards, and over his entire college career through 5 seasons, he had 261 catches, 1,500 receiving yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns, averaging 27.1 receiving yards per game. That is monstrous stuff. Like, truly monstrous stuff. 60 catches as a true freshman, 83 catches as a true sophomore for Mississippi State. We want running backs with size and pass catching. Yes, he's 24 years old. That's not great, but R.J. Harvey's going in the late 1st right now. You can get Woody Marks for free. 5'10", 207 pounds, so he has size, and then again, he also has crazy pass-catching upside. Now, I want to say that this 40 times adjusted because of his pro day, but I think that he ran in the 4.5s at his pro day. So I'm not as concerned about his athleticism or his size, and then also he has the pass catching, and he's already shown that he's had a peak as a rusher at USC this final year, and he has the opportunity to produce right away. According to Mike Clay's first run through of his 2025 projections here, in terms of rookie running backs sorted by their projected PPR points in year one, it's Genty, Hampton, Judkins, Harvey, Caleb, Henderson, Scatabo, and then it's Woody Marks. Woody Marks ahead of Jaden Blue, ahead of Tootin, ahead of Sampson, ahead of Giddens, ahead of a lot of guys getting drafted ahead of him. He has the opportunity where Clay hasn't projected for 120 plus touches right away. It's Joe Mixon, and then it's really nobody else. I imagine they got Woody Marks to be like an upgraded version of Daria Gunbawale, which to me is a very interesting player. Then our sixth player, or sleeper, we have Trevor Etienne. He goes in the 4th round to the Carolina Panthers. His ADP is the 411. He's my 402. I'm 9 spots higher than the consensus on him. And he's just a really solid running back. He's an early declare. He was 20 years old on draft day. So he is in the 100th percentile for draft age. And this is just kind of his list of the best parts of his profile. He's in the 88th percentile for SRS. That's just strength of team, right? Your team quality. Georgia was a good team, so he has pedigree. 87th percentile 40 time at 4.42, 86th percentile missed tackles forced per touch, 86th percentile elusiveness rating, 81st percentile lane zero line grade with a 6.15. This is among all day 3 running backs since 2016. 80th percentile yards after contact per attempt, 70th percentile breakaway run rate, 69th percentile chunk rate, 60th percentile receiving PPR per snap. So he's not like elite in anything besides being young and coming from a good school, but I want to bet on these kinds of players where they're young, they come from a good school, they test well, they do everything well, he can catch passes, he can do it all, and it's about as light of a running back room as you can get for a day 3 pick. Like, sure, Chuba Hubbard's there, but Chuba Hubbard's not like a top 10 or top 15 running back in the NFL. You have Rico Dowdle, who the same, like, who knows how good he really is, and then you have Brooks, who I would love for Jonathan Brooks to work out and play well, but he's now torn the same ACL twice, so I have a tough time, like, really even thinking about him in terms of Trevor Etienne's dynasty value. So all it will take for Trevor Etienne, again, is all we're looking for is for an injury, and then he's in there making plays, making moves. Like, people forget, like, they want guys who can just go in and play right away. You're not going to get that in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round of your rookie draft. And when we talk about redraft, like, we're drafting guys in the 9th round. Like, last year, Blake Corum was a 9th round redraft pick. You're drafting handcuffs in the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th round of your redraft leagues. In the 3rd, 4th, 5th round of your rookie drafts, drafting handcuffs is absolutely fine. If one of Hubbard goes down or Dowdle goes in, Etienne will absolutely get a shot. Now, this is bad faith to even show this screenshot, but he is a poor man's Jahmyr Gibbs. He is garage sale Jahmyr Gibbs. Because I just want to make sure, because people are going to look at the screenshot and be like, he's not Jahmyr Gibbs. I know he's not. I'm saying he is he is the great value version of Jahmyr Gibbs at 5'8", 198 pounds, 4.4 speed, great 10-yard split, great 10-foot broad jump. So he's explosive. He runs fast. He's a little bit undersized, but he can still get it done between the tackles. Then we have Brashard Smith, and this is us paying the Chiefs tax again. He's the 408 in ADP. He's my 406 in my top 50 rookie ranking. So I'm only 2 spots higher than the consensus. And I will say, too, like all these players, I keep saying my rank. If you want access to my rankings and you're in your rookie drafts and you're looking for players to draft here, you can find them on patreon.com/RonStewart. I have links to that in the description and the comment section down below, where I have my top 50 rookie rankings. You have my prospect model data's on there. You have my premium Discord, subscriber leagues, my dynasty startup rankings, my dynasty buys and sells. All that good stuff is there. But with Brashard Smith, he's interesting. His receiving profile is really, really strong, and that's where we'll start. When we look at college receiving fantasy points per snap, since 2016, it is Kenyon Drake, Alvin Kamara, Antonio Gibson, Jahmyr Gibbs, then Brashard Smith. Now, of course, those guys were all drafted on day 1 and 2. Brashard Smith was drafted on day 3. So it's not like, don't pencil him in to be an absolute stud, but that's kind of receiving upside we're talking about, is those kinds of running backs. We look at this stat as well from F-Ball Insights. Drafted running backs since 2017 with over 10% of their career touches coming on screens, which is a good thing. That means your offense is trying to get you the ball in space in the passing game. It is Kalen Robinson, not great, but then it's Tony Pollard, James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Tyrone Tracy in this cohort. So he is one of these guys where if there's going to be a Tyrone Tracy in this class, it is Brashard Smith, converted wide receiver to running back, but instead of being 24 like Tyrone Tracy, he's only 22 years old. He's had 108 catches, 1,097 yards, and 8 touchdowns receiving in his career, but then he also had a final season of 1,300 rushing yards and 14 rushing touchdowns. So we've seen him at his peak as a rusher. We've seen him catch passes throughout his entire career, and now he goes to a Chiefs backfield that is looking for a receiving weapon, right? Pacheco's not that. Kareem Hunt is a body in pass blocking at best. Brashard Smith with 7th round draft capital could make his mark early, but again, like I said earlier, he could absolutely be the next, Deneric Prince, Darwin Thompson kind of upside. So I don't want to sell you on a fake dream here. Then our 8th player, let's talk about Tory Horton. Tory Horton, Seattle wide receiver. He goes in the 5th round. His ADP is non-existent. He's my 407 though, and you can get him for free. And he is one of 16 wide receivers to get drafted on day 3 with an RS grade of silver or better, or an RS grade of 6 or better is what I'm trying to say here. And, it's not great. Like, he's not going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, so you can sort of get that out of there. But, outcomes like Gabe Davis and Dede Westbrook and Khalil Shakir, and that's really it. But those are decent, again, when we're talking about day 3 wide receivers, to have any hits on the list is huge. Remember, only 4.2% of round 4 wide receivers, 4% of round 5 receivers hit a 14-plus point per game season. It's just never really going to happen. But if you can have some hits like Gabe Davis or Dede Westbrook or Khalil Shakir, that's a decent ceiling to chase. And he's somebody that is 6'3", 196 pounds, runs a 4.4, and he goes to a team that kind of needs a perimeter receiver that can beat press man coverage, and that's what Tory Horton can do. According to Reception Perception, he beat press coverage in the 94th percentile, man in the 71st percentile, and zone in the 62nd percentile. So he can kind of win in all phases on the perimeter, and for a team that has Cooper Kupp and JSN, and then like MBS, who's kind of more like a field-stretching flanker, I think Tory Horton's going to get an opportunity right away to make an impact in this wide receiver room. Then our 9th sleeper, let's get to the tight ends, because this is always going to be the range where you're throwing darts at tight ends. His ADP, Oronde Gadsden II, is the 506. He's my 409, so I'm 9 spots higher than consensus. He goes to the Chargers in the 5th round, which is a great spot, right? They have Tyler Conklin there, but Tyler Conklin, who knows how good he really is? And then outside of that, it's really nothing. We could see Oronde Gadsden over time become a real target out of the slot for Justin Herbert, and that would be really fun. Now, let's go back to the next-gen stats model, which I've always talked about, like tight end, the predictive stuff for tight ends in terms of modeling is all over the place. So I don't mind deferring to an NGS model like this and just kind of seeing what they think without draft capital involved. And in terms of ranking the top tight ends by draft score, it is, of course, the top 5, Warren, Loveland. They love Fannin, by the way. Taylor, Arroyo, Terrence Ferguson, and then it's Oronde Gadsden II. He is the tight end 7 here. He looks really good. And we talk about it from a production standpoint. This is yards from scrimmage per team play. So this is just essentially like on a per play basis, how much are you impacting your team, right? Whether it's in the running game, whether it's in the passing game, and it's just your overall offense. Because if you just focus it on, the percentage of the passing offense, if you have a very low passing offense, then you can really inflate those numbers. But if you do it by scrimmage yards, it's the entire picture, right? How much are you impacting not just the passing game, but is your team going away from the run to pass you the ball, which to me is a big deal. This is all of the top tight ends in this class, right? Fannin, Taylor, Loveland, Terrence Ferguson, with Oronde Gadsden II on here. And you can see in year 2 and in year 4, he has 2 really good years, where his year 2 is better than Harold Fannin's year 2, and his year 4 is better than Terrence Ferguson's, Elijah Arroyo's, and Tyler Warren's, which is really impressive. In both of those years, as a sophomore in year 2, he had 61 for 975 and 6. In his senior year, he had 73 catches, 934 yards, 7 touchdowns. And him, Harold Fannin Jr., and Tyler Warren are the only tight ends in this class with a career 2+ yards per out run rate. That's a stat from David Gattiari, I believe, over on Twitter. And his athleticism is good enough. He ran at his pro day, I believe, and he comes out here and he looks like a Julius Thomas. To me, that's a good comp of just like a receiving tight end with decent athleticism, 6'4", 243 pounds, 4.65 speed, decent 10-yard split, decent explosion, and he can catch passes, and he's kind of like this wide receiver tight end tweener. Now, the second tight end I want to mention here, our 10th sleeper, is Mitchell Evans. And I wasn't really all that into him pre-draft, but I'm now very interested in Mitchell Evans. He's not getting drafted in your rookie draft. He is somebody you can 100% get when waivers roll through. And here's why I like Mitchell Evans. First of all, he is one of these Notre Dame tight ends. We've seen a billion of them, right? You've seen Tyler Eifert. You've seen Michael Mayer. You've seen Cole Kmet. You've seen a billion guys. Kyle Rudolph. This program breeds tight ends in the NFL. And he was somebody that had a lot of hype in year 3, right? If we actually look at that same chart from earlier in terms of production, I put him on there next to all the same names. Year 3, he had a monster year before tearing his ACL and then coming back for his senior year this past season. But in year 3, his yards from scrimmage per team play goes toe-to-toe with Colston Loveland. He was out here averaging over 50 receiving yards per game, which is huge for a tight end, and over 2 yards per out run in his 3rd season. He comes back next year. His final year, he did okay at Notre Dame, but he's still recovering from that ACL. You'd hope now that, 1, maybe the ACL injury hurt his combine a little bit, and 2, that he has further recovery to make so that he can actually be more athletic and better moving into the future here. Because when we look at his athletic comparables, he looks like Mark Andrews. He's a slower version of Mark Andrews, but he's a big boy. 6'5", 258 pounds, 4.7 speed. Nothing really else to write home about, but in an NFL right now that's kind of moving away from, like, Gadsden's a big gamble. So is a guy like Harold Fannin. These are guys who are more, I think that they're calling them the F tight end, where they play more of a slot in-space role, which is nice, but in certain personnel groupings, you don't want those tight ends going up against slot corners. Instead, you would like your tight end to be in line playing against linebackers and safeties, and that's what Mitchell Evans can offer you. He can play in line. He's 6'5", 258 pounds. He can block. He can be a more traditional tight end, right? You're looking at more of like a Jake Ferguson on the very, very high end. You know, you're talking about the George Kittles and the Jason Wittens of the world. I'm not saying that's what Mitchell Evans is going to be, but it's what he can, in terms of role in an offense, can be, or like Greg Olsen, etc. And when you look at the team fit, he goes in the 5th round to the Carolina Panthers. I know that their tight end room on paper is full, right? They drafted JT Sanders last year. They already have Tommy Tremble, but you have to remember both of these guys are smaller tight ends. They're more move tight ends, H-backs, fullback style type of guys, where JT Sanders is 6'3", 245 pounds. Tremble is 6'3", 241 pounds. Mitchell Evans is just way bigger. He has 2 inches. He has another, 15 pounds on both of them. He's a much more inline blocking tight end, and that's a different role than both of these guys, where like Tommy Tremble's this weird fullback H-back, JT Sanders more of a move tight end, and he didn't really show many flashes last year. So I'd rather just take a shot here on Mitchell Evans to be a pure, real tight end in line for them. I like what Dave Canales is cooking, right? You're bringing Ted McMillan. Bryce Young can take another step forward. And if Mitchell Evans early can be an extension of that offensive line and earn inline snaps and be their real tight end moving forward, I think he gets really interesting. And I also think that he's more athletic than you would think, right? He ran pretty slow, right? 4.7 40. But again, he tore his ACL in 2023 4-ish, right? It was after his 2023 season. And then you actually look at what he did at the Combine, and there's some stuff to look at here where he actually tied Terrence Ferguson for the fastest 10-yard split with a 1.55 10-yard split, and his top speed of 21.39 miles per hour was the 5th highest among the entire class. So he has some wheels. His 40 time wasn't amazing, but in terms of his top-end speed and in terms of his get-off time of that first 10 yards, both really strong. So again, if you're looking for a taxi squad stash tight end that's, all these guys, Gadsden's getting drafted, Gunnar Helm's getting drafted. Mitchell Evans, one of the ones that's not getting drafted in most leagues. Now, after that, our 11th sleeper, we have Jacory Croskey-Merritt. He was somebody I wasn't all that interested in, but then he goes 7th round to the Washington Commanders. His ADP right now is the 508. That's outside of my top 50, but he is somebody that is a priority dart throw to me once you get to the 5th round of your rookie drafts. And he's really interesting for this reason. First of all, his production's all over the place. He had a weird eligibility issue where he only played 1 game and ran for over 100 yards in that game in 2024. But his role moving forward, or not his role moving forward, but his standing in the NCAA was really weird. But still, just to only play in 1 game in your final year after he played at Alabama State early on in his career, and then he played at New Mexico, and then to still get drafted in the 7th round to me is a big deal. And Lance Zierlein, who has some of the best running back grades in the game, his running back grades correlate almost as well as draft capital to scoring points at the next level. And after Genty, Henderson, Hampton, Sampson, Judkins, Tootin, and Caleb, he has Jacory Croskey-Merritt as his RB8 in the entire class. The guy also tested really well, where he had a 4.4 40 at 5'10", 206 pounds. And the thing to really look at, he flunked the agility drills. That's not great. But the explosion, 10-foot broad jump, 41.5-inch vertical is nuts. So he's explosive. He's fast in a straight line. The issue for me, his biggest drawback is he only has 34 receptions in 40 career games dating back to his time at Alabama State. That's not good. He is not a pass-catching running back, but he does find himself on a team that is good at running the ball in Washington. They added nothing to this running back room. Austin Eckler's getting older. Brian Robinson's been fine. There's going to be some opportunity for him to come in here. He could be, like I've been saying, an injury away. If Brian Robinson goes down, Croskey-Merritt comes in and could be a really nice between-the-tackles threat for this team. Now, another taxi squad stash. This guy is getting undrafted in most rookie drafts. We have Ricky White. Shout out to Connor LaPlante. He is a guy over on Twitter. I'm trying to remember his @ I think it's like C LaPlante or something. I'll make sure I actually find it here. But he's been all over Ricky White, and he's actually been one of the guys talking the loudest about the NGS model and just kind of why it's a good thing to look at and why it's pretty cool. Because it's not like my RS grade model is a linear progression model. Theirs is more of a I'm trying to think of what it's called, but it's like an XG boost, like machine learning model, which is a really cool concept, but it's much more complicated than what I like to run. Let me see. Yeah, it's cplant_ on Twitter. Ricky White, he's another one of these guys. When we look at the NGS model here and we sort it by production grade, he is one of 46 day 3 wide receivers since 2010 with a 75 or better production score, which it just takes into account their production. You can kind of see just from the player profiler screenshot, 96 percentile college dominator rating, 100th percentile college target share, 96 percentile breakout age. What he did is he kind of like, I wouldn't say flunked the combine, but he wasn't great at the combine, where I don't know how they got 4.49 for this player profiler screenshot, but he's a 4.6 over on RAS. But just in terms of his production, right, these are day 3 receivers since 2010 with a 75 plus. You have a bunch of hits on here. You have, as you go down the list, you have D.D. Westbrook. You have, I guess you could call Kiki QT. You could say Khalil Shakir. You have Kenny Stills a little bit. Antonio Brown's a big one. Romeo Doubs is a big one. Jamison Crowder's a big one. Stephon Diggs is a big one. There's a bunch of, small to mid-range hits on here. You're never going to find a star-studded list of day 3 guys, but when you start to have Antonio Brown and Stephon Diggs and even guys like Jamison Crowder in the mix and Khalil Shakir in the mix of guys that he could be like, I really do like Ricky White. And again, for somebody that didn't run super well, he ran a 4.6 on his RAS card. He is one of these guys from Real Analytics where they kind of track players' in-game athleticism scores. He had a 92.9. That is really good, where he's really dynamic on the field. He just didn't really test all that well. And he was also super efficient, 2.69 career yards per route run. That is 89th percentile among day 3 wide receivers in my database. And he goes to the Seahawks. It's a very similar idea to Tory Horton. This wide receiver room is a lot of guys who are condensed, right, where it is Cooper Kupp, it's JSN, it's field stretching MVS, and then like a real perimeter receiver, that's up for grabs. And even though Ricky White is 184 pounds, he only played out of the slot 27% of the time in his college career, so maybe he could play on the outside or rotate and be a real threat in this wide receiver room as a 7th round pick. Now let's move off to our undrafted free agent territory. These are guys that you're only drafting as like taxi squad stashes. First up, we have Elijhah Badger. He goes undrafted to the Chiefs. Another guy we're paying the Chiefs tax on. 6'1", 200 pounds, 4.4 speed. That is good size, good speed. And he is somebody that is athletic. He breaks tackles. This is a tweet from Scott Barrett, where if you look at his usage at Arizona State versus with the Gators, he's had a season at 17 ADOT. He's had a season with a 7.3 yard ADOT. He's had a season with a 34% in the slot. He's had a season with 4% in the slot. So you can play in the slot, outside. You can play deep. You can play short. He's had utilization all across the board, and he's also the best tackle-breaking wide receiver in PFF college history, according to Scott Barrett, with a 35% missed tackles forced per reception, which is really good. So he breaks tackles. You can use him all over the place, and if Jalen Royals doesn't work out, I could easily see this being a situation where Elijhah Badger is the one that kind of takes his lunch money. Then let's get to RB 14 and 15. We'll do them together. We have Marcus Yarns, and we have Raheim Rocket Sanders. Now, of course, Both of these guys aren't in the prettiest situations. Marcus Yarns to the Saints. They already have Kendre Miller, Alvin Kamara. They drafted Devin Neal. But if he can stick around, he'll be interesting. Raheim Sanders, same deal. They drafted Marion Hampton round 1. Najee Harris, they signed to a backup deal. So he is, at best, the RB3 on this roster. But when we get to taxi squad stashes, you're just hoping they emerge somehow, some way. If an injury happens or a trade happens or whatever. But at the end of the day, these are 2 players I do want to bet on. Again, when we start to chase these day 3 profiles or just late round profiles on the NGS model, here are your 12 running backs since 2020 to go undrafted and have a 70-plus draft score on the next-gen stats model. I don't know why they include Jaden Blue. He, of course, got drafted in the 4th round. But among these 12 running backs, you have Sean Tucker, who's been okay. Keaton Mitchell, who's had a little bit of a run. And then, of course, the big one is James Robinson. Again, these are undrafted free agents. You're not going to find, there's not going to be a list where you sort and it's like, Arian Foster and James Robinson and, all the best undrafted free agents in the world. But to have a list with, James Robinson, Keaton Mitchell, Sean Tucker over the last 5 years, Marcus Yarns and Raheim Sanders both fit the bill. And when we talk about what these guys do, Marcus Yarns, among 25 running backs in my database, he's 3rd in receiving PPR per snap. He's tied for 4th in yards after contact per attempt, 5th in chunk rate, 7th in breakaway run rate, so he's efficient and he catches passes. Raheim Sanders, 1st in missed tackles forced per reception, where he makes somebody miss on 54% of his catches, 109.7 speed score, 5th in best season market share of receiving yards at 11.98%, 6th in final season SRS, that's just strength of schedule, 14.78, 9th in missed tackles forced per touch, 9th in receiving PPR per snap. So at a 6 foot, 217-pound frame, 4.46 speed, he also catches passes. He also makes people miss. I love Raheim Sanders. I know the landing spot's not ideal, but they're building out this offensive line, and if he can just find something, I think that he can stick around an NFL roster. And then Marcus Yarns, to me, is just like, if Devin Neal's not as good as advertised, or if Alvin Kamara is washed or gets hurt, I think Marcus Yarns can come in there as a 3rd down back and make some noise. Now, this last one's a really deep one, but he is a fun taxi squad stash as well. Lan Larison. He goes undrafted to the New England Patriots, and he's just so New England. Like, if there's going to be another Rex Burkhead or Danny Woodhead, it is Lan Larison. This is wild from Lance Zierlein. He actually has Lan Larison as his RB15 in the class, ahead of guys like Damian Martinez and Ollie Gordon and Brashard Smith and even RJ Harvey in terms of his pre-draft grade. He loves the guy, and this is his write-up on him, where he has him as a 6.1 grade, which is somebody that can, good backup with potential to develop into a starter, which is, for an undrafted free agent, that's amazing. His comp is Taysom Hill, FCS running back who offers a diverse skill set and 2 years of impressive tape to sift through. And you can just see he talks glowingly about him as just kind of like a weapon in an offense. We look at his stats as well. He reminds me a lot of Dylan Laube, but in a good way. I know that Dylan Laube didn't hit, but you stash these guys as much as you can. Over 1,000 rushing yards and 10-plus rushing touchdowns his last 2 seasons. And in his final season, 62 catches, 847 receiving yards, 6 receiving touchdowns. That is really, really good stuff. And again, when you just sort of comp him, this is really lazy of me, but he does comp similarly to a Rex Burkhead. He runs much faster with a 4.57, but in terms of size, in terms of agility, he aces that all. He is somebody where if you want to stash somebody at the end of your bench or you're in a deep dynasty league, I do like Lan Larison. So I think that is 16 sleepers and taxi squad stashes that I wanted to give you guys as we get to the late parts of these rookie drafts. If you're about to start a rookie draft and you're looking for rankings, you can find that on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. But if you can't support there, leave a like, subscribe to the new channel, RS Dynasty. We're at like over 1.5K subs, which is crazy. I made this channel not even a week ago. So thank you guys so much. Leave a like, comment for the algorithm, all that good stuff. And I will see you guys in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like